Hey everyone, good day again, and this is your Jiu-Jitsu Uncle Dave, and I welcome you back to another episode of JitsChat. And in this episode, I want to share with you my opinion, the three best positions to set up your submissions from as an older grappler. All right, for context, we always want to start with context. I'm going to share three position setups essentially that would lead to, in my opinion, a higher percentage. That also means lesser effort and lower risk to get a successful submission. And this is obviously biased towards the angle of the older grappler, as this channel is meant to be. But it doesn't mean it doesn't work for the younger folks or the more nimble folks. I am not making assumptions that just because you're over a certain age, you are big, chunky, small, tall, or whatever. So I'm basing this purely on two main things. One, effort in terms of dexterity and stamina to get there. And two, being able to stay in a dominant position without having to rely too much about flexibility and scrambling movements or chain of movements that will be kind of difficult to apply in practical sense. Let's start off with number three, Kimuras. Kimuras, whether it's from the top or from the bottom, particularly from close or half guard, are underrated for older grapplers because fundamentally, from a physical disadvantage point of view, I always mention that the more contact points we have with our partner, the more favorable it is for us because it limits where they're going to be moving around, but as well as making the series of events more predictable. Half guard from being on half guard from the top or bottom, or close guard from the bottom, obviously. Kimuras are so easy to get. And if you've been training for more than 6 months, I'm pretty sure you have already had a few classes where the details were taught to you. The main advantage of that is you're using a bigger mass, like your torso, and as well as your entire arm from shoulder all the way to wrist to isolate one limb. And you're attacking just the shoulder. And from that position, everything from shoulder down is up for it's for you to grab. It's for you to take. You to get a Kimura, get a straight armbar, get a wrist lock, get a switch to omoplatas, whatever. That arm isolation is such a big advantage. So I would put Kimuras at number three. Number two, I would put any head and arm strangle, meaning kind of like this, right? Whether it's an arm triangle choke, again, this applies whether you're on top or in the bottom. You can hit this from so many different positions, from side control, from mount, from half guard, from full guard. There are so many variants of it, whether you're doing a head and arm choke, a darce, an anaconda, an Armin guillotine, whatever it might be. You can adjust a version that suits your body mechanics. And a lot of times, particularly for arm triangles, you are relying a lot on your torso putting in the pressure rather than your arms, as long as you get those set up correctly. And the strangle, usually, if you get it right, it's usually pretty clean. And even if it's not clean, you'll get a crank. Right? But let's assume that we're doing the technique as cleanly as possible. You can get a really clean carotid strangle. They really don't need that much effort to execute. Not to mention it's relatively safe, particularly those that you're executing from the top. A lot of those variances allow you to do the moves without giving up the top position, probably with the exception of for a lot of the guillotines. But for head and arm choke, for example, you can certainly finish it from knee on belly, from mount, even from half guard, for example, while it's not perfectly as ideal, you still have that option. And not to mention, it works well whether or not you're doing it to somebody smaller than you, which usually means you get a much tighter access to the neck and have a lot more upper body control. But if you're going to do it to somebody bigger, their bigger shoulders and deltoids will actually make the choke a lot more efficient as well. So again, I'm not saying it's easy, but compared to a lot of the strangles that rely a lot on arm strength and delaying the lactic acid buildup, such as rear naked chokes, for example, as high percentage as RNCs are, understand that it's kind of hard to get there. You have to have dominant, you have to somehow pass the guard, get a dominant back position, and win the grip fight to access the neck. And even after that, you have to sink the choke quite deep to prevent the defense from coming in. So a lot of times, yes, RNCs are considered to be like the king of submission finish rate. That statistics apply a little bit more to the top athletes level than the lower hobbyist level, where getting to the back alone is hard enough and getting the proper mechanic of isolating the neck is also just as hard. So that's why I'm putting arm triangles higher than RNCs for older people. For the top one, it's more of a position than an actual finishing technique. I would put being in an S mount position to be an S tier position for folks like us. I understand that you don't get to S mount like easily. You can't get to S mount from inside a closed garter, for example. But if you do get past a guard, whether you advance the side control to mount or even back mount to north-south, accessing S mount is relatively intuitive. What I like about being in an S mount is you're having your entire weight. I don't care if you're just 60 kg. You're having 60 kg of your weight sitting on somebody's rib cage or sternum with both of their arms completely isolated from their body. And if you get that fundamental position right, you can put a lot of weight pressure without much effort. And it's kind of hard to buck you over if you get the S-mount position correctly. Whatever positional movement the bottom guy wants to do, it typically ends up in a worse position, whether they're going to end up giving up mount anyway, or back mount anyway, or a sub, right? From that position, if you do it right, and if you drill this from white belt on, you'd realize that you're getting double arm isolation with neck exposure pretty much every single time. So yeah, S-mount. Like once you get a good S-mount, not only are you going to torture your opponent with diaphragm or rib pressure and suffocating claustrophobic sense of situation, but you can attack either arm anytime you want. In gi, you can attack the lapel anytime you want without giving up the position. In no gi, arm bars are there, triangles are there. For me, I always go for wrist locks from that position. But the same idea as the Kimura earlier, you got the arm completely isolated. But in this case, you get both armpits owned by you. I would put S-mount position as S tier for older people to work on, because that will open up so many subs for you. What do you think? What are your highest percentage and non-athletic based position that you like to do to either set up or finish a submission? Let me know, drop it in a comment, and I'll see you next time. Jiu-Jitsu and pull out. Ciao.